Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Jessica Holtein, the Education Outreach Coordinator at the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. On behalf of our CEO, Susan Abrams, our Board of Directors, volunteers, and staff, I would like to thank you for being here for this very special and timely event, History Repeating the Forced Labor and Genocide of the Uyghurs. As an institution grounded in the history and lessons of the Holocaust that works to share universal lessons of humanity and generate awareness and actions against injustices worldwide, it is our pleasure to share this program with you and take a deeper look into the atrocities taking place in China at this very moment. Over the years, China has gradually stripped away the rights of the Uyghurs, an ethnic and religious minority living in Xinjiang, China. Since 2017, at least 1 million Uyghurs have been interned in more than 85 identified camps. In the past few years, the Chinese government denied the camp's existence, but after images emerged, they acknowledged the camps as re-education centers. Survivors of these camps were detained, interrogated, beaten because of their religion and ethnicity. This afternoon, we will hear from a survivor of the camps and an activist fighting to raise awareness and stop the genocide. Both will shed light on the atrocities as well as address the international response and how we can advocate against these injustices. It is our honor to stand with you and alongside you today as we come together to acknowledge the oppression and the genocide of the Uyghurs, as well as genocides worldwide. Only as a collective community can we impart truth and take a stand for humanity. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our community partners listed in the introductory slides for their continued support. Finally, at the end of the program, we will take questions. Please ask your questions by typing them into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. Our speakers will answer as many questions as possible, but may not get to all of them. It is now my honor and distinct pleasure to introduce today's speakers, Zumret Dawut and Rushan Abbas. Zumret was born and raised in Urumqi. She is a survivor of China's concentration camps where millions of Uyghurs are extrajudicially detained based on their ethnic identity and religion. Her firsthand testimony regarding the brutalities of the camps has helped to shed light on the true intent of the Chinese regime. She currently resides in Virginia with her husband and children. Rushan Abbas is an ardent campaigner for the human rights and democracy movements of Uyghur people. Ms. Abbas's involvement in activism and democracy started in 1985 by participating in the pro-democracy demonstrations at the university, as well as she served as the vice president of the Uyghur Students' Science and Culture Union. Since her arrival in the United States in 1989, Ms. Abbas co-founded the first Uyghur Association in the United States and served as the organization's first vice president. In 2017, Rushan Abbas established her organization, Campaign for Uyghurs, to advocate, promote human rights and democratic freedoms for Uyghurs, and mobilize individuals in the international community to take action to stop the human rights atrocities in East Turkestan. Under Campaign for Uyghurs, Ms. Abbas led One Voice, One Step, and successfully organized a demonstration on March 15, 2018 in 14 countries in 18 cities on the same day to protest China's detention over 1 million Uyghurs in concentration camps. She regularly appears on media outlets to advocate for the Uyghur cause and gives public speeches in universities, interfaith organizations, and think tanks. She currently lives in Virginia. Please welcome Rushan and Zumret. First, we are going to watch, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to watch a video of Zumret's testimony, and then we will hear from Rushan. So give me 2 seconds.
Assalamu alaikum. Ben Şarkı Türkistan Ceza Lageri şahidi Zumret Dawut. Illinois Çoğun Qırğınçılığı Muzeyi ve Mağrib Merkezi'nin bu faaliyetini uyuşturganlığına rahmet. Bu münasebet bilen Bana keşmişlerimni sizler bilen ortaklaşıqa sahne yaratып bergenligidan tolumu minnetdarman. Beşimden ötken kısmetlerini kayta söz içiş men üçün tolumu müşkül bolsumu, bana okşaş azap okubatlarga duçar bolgan hem buluvatkan milyonlan halkının zulmüden kutuluşuğa, şundaqla Xitay hakimiyetinin rezil mahiyetini içip berişke vesile buluş üçün sözüşüm kerekligini his kılmaktaman. Fakat Uyghur bolganlığım Xitay dairleri tarafından nişanlanıp jaza lagerlarga qamılışımga sebep boldu. Sizlerge sözlemekçi bolgan hikayem şembe günü başlandı. Şu günü mahalle komitesinden kelgen telefonu tapşırıp aldım. Telefonda mahalle komitesiga berişimni aytdı ve çokum derhal kirişimni çekildi. Şunun bilen mahalle komitesiga bardım. O bir berişimnin qarangı zulmet, soğuk hem kıstançılıkka tolgan lagerde ahırlaştırganlığını oylapma bakmagandım. Lager binasının qurilishi sirtdan qarmoqqa odatdagi turma binasiga o'xshaydi. Ammo men kirganda dariza va eshiklarga o'rlashtirilgan temir reshetkalarni ko'rdim. Meni so'roq qilishga boshladi. Ular mendan Pokistonlik yo'ldoshim bilan to'y qilganligim haqida savol so'rab, banka hisobotimdagi Pokistonga pul yo'tkash to'g'risidagi uchurlarga tushuncha berishimni talab qildi. Keyin meni nimishga tutib turayotganligiga hech qanday tushuncha bermay turib, meni kichik kamarga solib qo'ydi. Bir necha soatdan keyin ular xuddi jinoyatchiga ma'mul qilgandek beshimga qora xalta kiygizdi. Hamda meni menga o'xshash chaqirtilib akirilgan boshqa ayollarning to'piga akirdi. Men bek qo'rqib ketdim. Xuddi hozirlam o'ldirilgandek hissiyotga keldim. So'roqdan tortib toki salomatlik tekshirguncha menga hech qanday suv va yoki yemaklik berilmadi. Bir qator tekshirishlardan keyin beshimga yana qora xalta kiygizilib, Beyzan tarbiyalash markaziga, ya'ni jazo lageriga elib kelindim. Jaza lageriga kelgandan keyin meni 3 nafar soqchining oldida kiyim-kechaklarimni silib, turma kiyimni almashtirishga buyurdi. Arqadan menga 5 kiloluk kishan silib, qarang'u kamerga o'rlashtirdi. Kamerda mendan boshqa 30 dan ortiq ayollar bor edi. Kamerda hammalar o'rtaq ishiltadigan birla muncha bor edi. Hamma yerda har bir harakatimizni kuzatib turadigan kameralar o'rnashtirilgan edi. Kamer to'liq kichik ham tar bo'lg'achqa navbat bilan uxlashga majbur bo'ldik. Her günü ettigen saat 5'te o'rnimizda turattık. Andan yüz gözlerimizde berilgen 1 minut içinde yük buluşqa mecbur bulattık. Tez qilib bulanmaganlar jazolanatdi. Sükut qilishimiz kerak edi. O'zaro paranglashishimizga yo'l qo'ymaydi. Bizga tuzuk tamoq berilmaydi. Kunda yeydiganimiz ko'ktak sho'rpisi yoki nihoyatda oddiy guruch umichi bilan bir tal jingmomi bo'ladi. Dastlab kelganda menga berilgan mo'midan diabet kesili bor yashangan ayolga bilib bermekçi buldum. Bu sebeple qarovulning tayoq to'qmiqi ostida qoldim. Yashangan ayol qattiq yig'lab turib, mening texi kelganligimni, shunga kamerning qoidalarini bilmaydiganligimni aytib, qarovulning meni urishdan to'xtat qilishni o'tindi. Tayoq zarbisidan "Ah xudo" deb nola qildim. Buni ko'rgan qarovul hozir Tangrimni chaqir. Agar Tangrim haqiqatan shunda ulug' bo'lsa, seni hozir qutuldirib olgan bo'ladi, dedi. Meni texmi urishga boshladi. Men bilan qamalgan ayollarning hammasi menga o'xshash, hech qanday jinoyat yo'q. Gunohsiz edi. Ularning ichidan doktordan tortib o'qituvchigacha, qiyirdan yoshgacha har xil kesib, har xil yoshdagi ayollarni topqili bo'ladi. Xitoy hukumatı bu lagerni Uyg'urlarni tarbiyalab, ularga Xitoy tili o'rgatadigan tarbiyalash markazlari deb tashviq qilishga boshladi. Bu butunlay yolg'on. Bu faqat dunyoning ko'zini bo'yash uchun qilingan neyrangvozlik xolos. Lagerda kommunist naqshlarini elishga va Xitoy komitetining Hükümetinin siyaset teşvikatlarını yadlaşqa mecburlanattık. Hatta bizge tamak berişten burun bizde Xitay Komünist Partisi ve Xi Jinping'ni mediyleşke, ularga teşekkür etişqa mecburlap bizge xorluq his qildiratdi. Bu kunda necha qatam tekrarlanatdi. Lagerdagi o'qituvchilar bizga mundaq deydi: Uyg'ur deb bir millat yo'q. Hammasi faqat Xitoyning bir qismi. Bu ular bizning milliy kimligimizni yo'q qilish uchun qo'llanayotgan tashviqot edi. Bu xil destekler her günü saat 2'den 4'gacha o'tiladi. Saqchilar bizni kamerdan darsxonaga o'xshaydigan uylarga yalab elib boradi. Bu darsxonada o'qituvchi bilan o'quvchilar medal rishatka bilan ayrilib turadi. Medal rishatka xuddi biz jinoyatchilardek o'qituvchilarga hujum qilib, ularni o'ldirib qo'ygandek o'qituvchilarni bizdan qo'g'dash uchun yasalgan. Ya'ni bu bizden ularga hücum qilishimizning oldini olish uchun qo'llangan tadbir ekan. Lagerdagi ajarchilik ham bizga berilayotgan noma'lum dorilarning ta'sirida doim xomush yurardik. Harakatimizni cheklab turadigan 5 kiloluk kishan va bizni doim nazorat qilib turadigan kameralarni demaylam qo'yay. Bundaq sharoitda biz nimani qila oldik? Adam emas bir tal hasharatga zaxm yetkazmagidek kuchimiz yo'q edi. Vaqt go'yo to'xtab qolgandek to'limi asta o'tmoqda. Qachon bu tutqun hayotining qutulib erkinlikka chiqa oladiganimni bilmaydim. Bizga har kun yeydigan oq do'rni o'z ichiga olgan noma'lum dorilarni beriladi. Bu dorilar bizni intayin xomush holatga keltirib qo'ydi. Bizning dorining ta'sirida hayizlarimizmi to'xtab qolganligini bayqadik. Ta hozirgacha menga hayiz kelib boqmadi. Doridan sirt bizga haftada bir qatam noma'lum modda hukul qilib urilatdi. Men tutib kelingan 2 oy ichida menga ko'p qatam hukul urildi. Ular bu hukullarni yuqumli kasalliklarga qarshi vaksina deydi. Har qatamki hukuldan keyin kallam qup-quruq bo'lib esimni yo'qotdim. Hatto bolalarimning borligini unutib qolatdim. Qizim men tutilganda 5 yoshda edi. Lekin uni faqat eslay Dadam, yo'ldoshim, hatto bolalarimmi xiyolimga kirmaydi. Birdan bir o'ylaydiganim hayot qilish va o'lib qolmaslik edi. Men bu o'qillarga xumar bo'lib qolganligimga ishonaman. Uning ta'sirini ta bugunga qadar his qilmoqdaman. Har doim kuchli besimga duch kelganda o'qilga bo'lgan xumarim tutatdi. Men lagerga solangan chaqlarda yo'ldoshim Imron meni qutqizib chiqish uchun qo'ldan kelishcha tirishdi. Men ular duch kelgan sistemalik boshqarishning haqiqiy guvohisi bo'ldi. Men yo'qolib ketgan birinchi kundan boshlab yo'ldoshim Urumchi va Beyjandagi har darajalik hukumat va qonuniy organlarga berib surishtirma qildi. U ayollari Xitoy hukumati tarafidan tutib qilingan boshqa pokistonliklar bilan guruhni tashkillab Pokistonning Beyjandagi elchixonasiga arz sunmoqchi. Ham shu yerda namoyish qilmoqchi bo'ldi. Yo'ldoshim tashkillagan guruhga yo'qolib ketgan ayollarining izdirigini qilishga ham qo'yib berilishga izchil ching turg'ashqa Pokiston hukumati oxiri ishni yo'g'intatmaslik sharti bilan ayollarining qo'yib berilishiga yordam qilganligi haqida va'da berdi. Pokiston doiralarining diplomatik besimi bilan men 2 oy tutib turilgandan keyin qo'yib berildim. Men qo'yib berilgandan keyin Xitoy doiralari mening 3 balliq bo'lib planliq tug'utga xiloflik qilganligimni, shu sababdan 3-chi balam uchun menga 18,000 yuan, taxminan 2650 Amerika dollari jarimana qo'ydiganligini aytdi. Jarimani to'lagandan keyin doirlar meni tug'maslik operatsiyasi qilishga zo'rladi. Hamda Jungo Kompartiyasining menga haqsiz operatsiyasi qilish fursati berganligiga minnatdor bildirishimni aytdi. Men rad qilishdan qo'rqib operatsiyani qabul qildim. Aholilar boshqarish komiteti va planliq tug'ut ishxonasining xizmatchilari meni hamda 20 yoshdan 30 yoshgacha bo'lgan boshqa 5 Uyg'ur ayolni Urumchidagi yuqumning oldini olish markazining operatsiya uyiga elib bordi. Bu jarayonda o'zimni xuddi bo'g'izlash uyiga elib kelayotgandek his qildim. Avval narkozlanib, hushimni yo'qotdim. Narkozdan uyg'onganimda qattiq og'riq azobidan to'lg'inib ketdim. Atrofimga qarag'animda uyning ichidagi men bilan birga kelingan boshqa ayollarmi qattiq og'riq azobida yig'lab nola qilyotdi. Shu chaqda hissiyotimni sizlarga tasvirlab beramayman. U bir inson qalbidan chiqqan razillik edi. Ba'zida u azobdan mangu qutulolmagandek his qilaman. Chunki mendan tortilgan narsalarni qaytarib akelgili bo'lmaydi. Men texi so'zlamagan yana nurg'un hikoyalar bor. Hozir sizlar bilan o'rtoqlashganim butun hikoyamning faqatdan bir qismi xolos. Bu suhbatning Sharqiy Turkistonda yuz berayotgan ishlarning haqiqiy yuzini sizlarga ko'rsatishga foydali bo'lishini umid qilaman. Shundaqla hikoyamni anlatgan vaqtingizda millionlagan xalqning menga o'xshash qismatlarga duchor bo'layotganligini asli saqlashinglarni umid qilaman. Ahvol haqiqatan xabarda ko'rganimiz Dehmu va yoki dinmu nachar. Bu haqda izdining hamda bu haqdagi isbotlarni ko'rib chiqing. Bu to'g'riliq nurg'un guvohlik sin rasm hamda oshkorlangan xanzuch hujjatlar bor. Kishilarning bu ishlardan xabarsiz qilishiga endi bahona yo'qdir. Buningga qarshi tadbir qo'llanishdan voz kechish zulmga sherik bo'lgan bilan barobar. Bu to'g'riliq hozircha önümlük tedbir qo'llanilmag'achqa Xitoy hukumatining Uyg'urlar ustidan yurgizayotgan qirg'inchiligi tig'igacha to'xtagani yo'q. Zulmga uchrayotgan Uyg'ur xalqi unutilib qolmaslik kerak. Bu yerda bir razil kuch bor. Texmi ko'p kishilarning mendak azobga duchor bo'lishdan burun bu razillikning to'xtashini umid qilaman va buning uchun duo qilaman. Men dünyadaki her qaysi devletlerden Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı ve Halkara Kişilik Hukuk Teşkilatlarında şunu ötünmem ki, halkımızı qutquzishqa yordam qilinglar. Uyg'urlar ve başka Müslüman xalqlar Xitoy hukumati tarafidan irqiy qirg'inchilikqa duch kelmoqda. Xitoy hukumatining qilgan atganlarining so'riqi yo'qmi? Agar ular o'z fuqarolarim deb da'vo qilayotgan kishilarga shundoq muomala qilayotgan yerda ulardan qo'shni davlat va dunyodagi boshqa davlat xalqlariga qanday muomala kutish mumkin? Xalqimizning ahvozlariga quloq solinglar. Uyg'urlarning butkul insoniyatga o'rtaq bo'lgan erkinlikdan bahramand bo'lish huquqi bor. Ko'pchilikka rahmat.
Thank you so much, Zumret. And now I will hand it over to Rushan to speak.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much to the museum and the Education Center and the Educators Institute for Human Rights for hosting this important program today. It is our hope that by sharing the realities of what's happening to the Uyghurs under the Chinese regime, we will all recognize the historical mandate to stop it. The Uyghurs have lived in Central Asia for over 2,000 years, since the Chinese Communist Party's occupation in 1949. The Chinese Communist Party has relentlessly destroyed Uyghur culture and religion. The Uyghurs have been persecuted under so many different labels. And following the 9/11 tragedy here in America, China rebranded their efforts as a war on terror. Under that pretext, China has outlawed all the basic and the normal religious practices, as called them illegal Islamic activities. Xinjiang is the new name given to our homeland by after China occupied our homeland, which means new territory, a name which is inaccurate at the best and insulting at worst to Uyghurs, who prefer to use the historic and the symbolic name East Turkestan. As you saw in the video that Zumret shared, listening to her testimonies, it seems unimaginable that such horrors could be the reality for millions of people today. But this is happening on our watch, while the entire free world is not only muted, but shockingly complicit. Beijing fears what it cannot buy or control, just the moral compasses. Under Xi Jinping, the moral relativism has been combined with Han ultra-nationalism. Zumret has been one of the few people able to get out and speak boldly after about her experience after she came to the free world, and she has paid a heavy price. As an Uyghur American myself, I have been privileged to live in this free country for decades now, but I have also paid a price for using the platform of democracy here in the United States to speak against this evil and China's genocide against the Uyghurs. Yes, genocide that is being perpetrated by the Chinese authorities. My husband's entire family disappeared from summer of 2017. For more than 3 years now, he has no information on his parents, 3 sisters and their husbands, and a brother and his wife, as well as 14 of his nieces and nephews, all missing from his home in Hotan. After I spoke on a panel for Hudson Institute in September of 2018, where I described the fate of my in-laws and the conditions of the camps and the police state, the surveillance Orwellian police state, 6 days later, my own sister was abducted from her home in Urumqi. A direct retaliatory action for my public denouncement of the Chinese authorities. to this day, more than 2 years now, I have no information of my sister's whereabouts. We have absolutely no information of my sister. I do not know where she's being held or what current condition is. It has been over 2 years of emotional torment, and her case is one of the millions. According to the Chinese government's own leaked documents, Uyghurs are detained on the basis of ethnic identity under the guise of fighting extremism. But the lies concerning the concentration camps themselves proves this to be a false. First, the Chinese authorities denied the camps existed, but when satellite imagery proved their existence and the overwhelming evidence that the reporters and the journalists provided, and also former inmates starting to speak out, they said these camps were vocational training schools. My sister is a retired medical doctor who speaks fluent Mandarin Chinese. What kind of vocational training does a retired medical doctor needs to get a job? She already retired in early age due to medical reasons. Many of the first people to be arrested were intellectuals, professors, artists, doctors, successful business owners. Soon it was also shown that these so-called schools had guard towers, armed guard towers, barbed wire, and they were ordering mass quantity of handcuffs, pepper sprays, and items that seem out of place in a school. A document quoted the party secretary Chen Chuan-guo referring to Uyghurs, and he said, quote, must first break their lineage, thereby Uyghurs, break their roots, break their connections, and they break their origin, unquote. These chilling words stated in an internal document reported by the media to the public. It's only the touch on China's harsh policies towards the Uyghurs. This situation is getting worse as the Chinese government continues to get away with their inhumane practices in front of the world community, now leading to an active genocide. The Chinese regime is claiming that people have graduated from those camps. Then why are millions of Uyghurs unable to speak to their family members and the millions still missing? Where is my sister if the people in vocational training centers graduated? Outside of the camps, life is also living, the life is also a living hell, basically. The millions more of the Uyghurs are being forced into factory jobs across China proper, where they are being literally enslaved. The world struggles to comprehend that Chinese authorities could be so brutally colonialized, so completely racist. So we must also be reminded that in addition to composition to ethnic identity, the geopolitical significance of East Turkestan for Xi Jinping's ambitions cannot be ignored. 1/3 of China's natural gas and oil reserves, 40% of coal reserves, and the other precious metals such as uraniums and the gold and the jade, as well as 84% of China's cotton output come from our homeland. The People's Republic of China's strategy of building a new Silk Road, which is the Belt and Road Initiative, is causing destruction in our homeland and is populating massive concentration camps while Uyghurs are facing extermination. The Chinese media constantly brags about the goodness of the Chinese Communist Party in developing East Turkestan and the bridging economic benefits to the Uyghurs. But in reality, they merely view our people and our homeland as people and a place that they exploit that they can exploit resources from. In fact, a high-level Chinese government official, Hu Lianghe, said that the Uyghur problem, quote, Uyghur problem must be taken to a final solution stage, unquote. This is all too convenient as Xi Jinping seeks to push forward the Belt and Road Initiative. Even seemingly innocent programs like the sister city initiatives, which we have a lot in United States, they are used to advance these expansionist goals. As this Belt and Road Initiative comes at the cost of Uyghur people's blood, many Muslim majority countries remain silent. China's hospitals have even advertised halal organ transplants in Arabic language in those Muslim majority countries. So basically, while there was a mandatory DNA tests for Uyghur people starting from the end of 2016, the Uyghurs are being used for forced organ harvesting as well. The Chinese hospitals have been advertising their ability to perform double lung transplants with practically no wait time during the COVID-19 pandemic. There was an article, they did successful double lung transplant, identifying the double lung for the transplant within 24 hours. So imagine that. Where are these people are being held to be slaughtered? In the airport in Kashgar, which is the Muslim, like the Uyghurs are a mainly populated city, there were a special line at the airport, a special security check line for organ transplant passengers who are transporting human organs. So China is concurrently waging an unrelenting war on religion. The Chinese Communist regime has announced openly to the world that they are sinicizing the religion and rewriting the Bible and the Holy Quran by changing the core principles of the religion to meet Chinese Communist values. Yet the world is silent. How in the world would any religion be compatible with communist atheist ideology? The Chinese Communist Party has sent party cadres to live with families and they supervise them under the guise of forced relationships or double relatives program. For many Uyghur women, those husbands are in the camps. The Chinese official may even sleep in their bed. Imagine what's happening to those Uyghur women. I call this government-sponsored mass rape of the Uyghur women. QR scanning codes are placed on the doors of Uyghur homes so that the social rating of the Uyghurs who live there can be checked. Many women are forced into marriages with Han Chinese men. If they refuse, they will be labeled as Islamic extremists, didn't want to marry non-Muslim Han Chinese, and then they will send to the camps. Again, this is nothing short of Uyghur girls being raped under the name of sham marriages. The Chinese government is also trying to eradicate the Uyghur ethnic identity by targeting the younger generations. While their parents are detained in the camps, Uyghur children are taken away, held hostage in Chinese government-run orphanages. They are being indoctrinated, forced to abandon their Uyghur identity and to swear loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party and the push to recognize Xi Jinping as God. In some cases, the children have even been asked to spy on their own parents for religious behaviors or may even denounce them. From these atrocities to the mere separation itself, it's clear that the effects on young developing minds are catastrophic, and the Chinese government's willingness to do this is evil. Over 500,000 Uyghur children have become the main target of China's policy of assimilation and social re-engineering as they sent to those kind of state-run orphanages. Furthermore, we cannot ignore our own complicity. There are many big name brands that are directly profiting off the Uyghur slave labor. Some of them are some brands that profited off the Jewish slave labor during the World War II. The Volkswagen and the Siemens, for example. Here in the US, we will recognize many of the names of the unrepentant corporations being complicit, such as Nike, Victoria's Secret, and many, many more. I am standing before you to say that as an Uyghur American, every time when I look at one of these 83 complicit world brands, and each time when I see their logo, I am stabbed in the heart as I wonder if my sister, a retired medical doctor who was thrown into the camps, was forced to make these products. A retired doctor being used as a slave to make your clothing. It's estimated that 1 in 5 cotton garments in the world can be linked back to cotton from East Turkestan. And the Uyghurs, the enslaved Uyghurs, are working on this production. Until the Uyghurs are freed, your fashion must have our own families, our families' pain. In the beginning of 1930s, countries around the world continued to do business with Germany. They avoided acknowledging bordering the human rights abuses for the sake of economic trade at the cost of millions of lives. Countries in Europe paid the price of economic cooperation with Nazi Germany with bombs blowing up over their heads. The Allied countries easily defended their economic ties with Germany by hiding behind claims of ignorance. Also, they knew what was happening. But today, we cannot claim the same ignorance. This is 21st century. This is information era. So today, we have the information to act. But even after the painful chapters of the history, we still find the international community is crippled by and even complicit in the Chinese regime's crimes. We hope to prevent history's mistakes from happening again. It seems unbelievable that at this modern age, concentration camps, complete with crematoria being built next to them, have returned on the massive scale on our watch. As the scope of these camps has increased, action regarding addressing these atrocities has been devastatingly slow. I want to read a quote by Ian Pierce in The Dream of Scipio, where he said, "When all this is over, people will try to blame the Germans alone, and the Germans will try to blame the Nazis alone, and the Nazis will try to blame Hitler alone. They will make him bear the sins of the world, but it's not true. You suspected what was happening, and so did I. It was already too late over a year ago." The sentiment expressed in this passage is all too familiar. The concentration camps were built first in East Turkestan under a Strike Hard campaign in 2014 and vastly expanded starting in 2017. It has been 6 years now. While the world turns the crisis of the Uyghurs into political conversation, the Chinese regime is being rewarded for its crimes. Beijing is hosting the 2022 Winter Olympics. How can we have such a literal repeat of the historic mistakes? Uyghurs are dying, facing genocide. The time to act is now, and even acting now is late. But we hope it's not too late for the entire international community to choose to be upstanders. The world cannot afford to allow this evil to remain unchecked. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rushan. That was so powerful. Thank you. So now I'm going to ask Zumret and Rushan some questions. I wanted to start with Zumret. Your story is so heartbreaking. Do you talk to other survivors who have similar stories?
You have to unmute. You have to unmute, Mehmetcan.
Hi, this is Mehmet Jana. I'm going to help translate Zumret's answer. So Zumret Dawut.
Rahmat. Mening atrapımda nurgun dostlarım, urug tuqqanlarım, mush ism Uyg'urli bo'lsa ish qilib nurg'unlari turmalarda yetyapti beguna. Endi menga hammadan bek alaqi bek ta'sir qilgan ish bizning a'zolarimizni egicha qis yo'qlarning hammasi a'zolari ko'chirilyapti. Mushu egicha qis yo'q odamlarning ishga a'zolarini elib, mushu xalqarada halol ishga a'zo qilib, biroqlar mush dunyodan yo'q qilib ularni ashunda a'zolarini ko'chirish mushu ishi menga bek ta'sir qilgan. Mushu hatto men bu vaqtimda shunda turmada yetib yotgan vaqtida shu urug' tuqqanlari yo'q, egicha qis yo'qlarni a'zolarini olib ketib, anadan keyin o hattoki qabr boqib mushlarni uydagilari yo bo'lmasa xalqaraga mushu uqqanmisin degandek saqchilar shunda qabrlarni boqadigan ishlar ashunda bekchiq u yerda. Endi shuningga demoqchi bo'lganim biz endi borgan sari turmalar lagerlar yetishdan boshqa yana o'lib tugayotdi bizning xalqimiz.
So I have my family members and friends. They are in concentration camp because they are Uyghurs, and a lot of them became victims of concentration camps and became victims of organ harvesting. I was shocked by the news and by what I heard about the halal organ business that China is involving. And
Endi men bu yerga chiqqan birdan bir talalik bir inson. Birdan bir mening yo'ldoshim chetalik bo'lganligi uchun men chiqa oldim. Uningdan boshqa nurg'un xonim qizlarimiz hozirgachilik, hozir mushu biz so'zlayotgan vaqtda ichida hozirgachilik turmalarda yetyapti. Ularning hech qanday gunohi yo'q. Hech qanday ularning gunohi faqat Uyg'ur bo'lganligi uchun, bir musulmon bo'lganligi uchun.
So I am the lucky who can survive and came to the free world, and because of my husband but so many Uyghurs there are still were in concentration camp. They didn't have a chance to go out, and they didn't have this chance to speak.
Ular aşındaq tamaqı yaxşı emas, tazlıqı yaxşı emas, hatta şəxsi tazlıq qığılıb bulmaydıgan, ekval astıda şəxsi tazlıqlarının qığıl bulmaydıgan, hatta ki tut ətrafı kamera orundulğan, hacatxanlarını təng işiltiş, hatta ki çoğun kiçik tərətlərini qıvatqa halatlardan tatıb kameraga ilinib durduğan aşındaq öylərdə turmuş keçir, turmalar deyildi aşındaq öylərdə.
There are a lot of women still in the camps and suffering bad condition like really poor meal and bad hygiene, and cameras everywhere watching them, sharing only a single bathroom in a small room.
Nurgun ayollar manga o'xshash tug'maslik operatsiyasini majbur qildirishga ham har qandig'ini 20 yoshdan tug'ut deyishdagi ayollarning hammasini shu tug'maslik operatsiyasini majbur qilyapti Xitoy hukumati.
And a lot of women like me forced to participate in sterilization.
Zumret, what do you hope that the audience takes away as action items after listening to your story?
Rahmat, bu savolni bek yaxshi so'radingiz. Biz bek ojizlik qilyapmiz hozir, chunki bularni yolg'on sahna hozirlaydiganga bek ustikan Xitoy hukumati. Bunga endi dunyoni ishontirish uchun birdan-bir haqiqiy bir o'mak shakllanib, o'mak tayyorlanib, Xitoyninki oq ziyorat qil degan joylardan boshqa o'zlari shaxsiy holda masalan razvedka atirdilamdi va yoki shaxsiy nima deymiz, mustaqil holda bir o'mak shakllanib, shu Xitoyning hech qanday besimiga uchirmaydigan, Xitoyning hech qanday besimiga uchirmagan holda ashunda bir tekshirish umidi berishni umid qilamiz.
Thank you for asking this fantastic question. So China is doing very well at staging and showing what they want to show to the other world. And I hope people can organize an independent investigation group to visit our homeland, to visit the places that not China going to show, to investigate independently.
Chunki men vatanda barchag'imdimi mushunda o'maklar bag'an vaqtida men mushaq mangishga az qolgan vaqtimda hattoki o'zlari hukumatning odamlarini o'tirg'i chiqarib bizni talog'i chiqmaysizlar, chet elliklar kelib qolmaysizlar degandek ashunda shartlar bilan shu mushadan o'mak bo'lsa, xuddi bir hiliqi bir drama qo'ygandek, o'yan o'ynagandek ashunda qiliqlarni qilib ketdi Xitoy hukumati. Hatto masjidlarni ichib, hozirga qadar masjidlarimiz taqoq. Chunki Xitoy hukumati islom diniga shunchalik o'chmanlik bilan qarab, masjidlarimizni chiqib, islom dinini butunlay yo'qotishga ishlarni qilyotdi. Hozir mushu chet elliklar tekshirgili bordi, yuqoridan tekshiruvchilar keldi desa, hattoki qilib qolgan bir nechta tal masjidlarni ichib, ularga biz dinni hech qanday nimqimidoq cheklimidoq degandek har bir odamlarga besim silib, odamlarni namoz o'qishga ashunda chaqirtib, ashunda biz hech qanday dinni cheklimidoq degandek yolg'on sahna hozirlaydigan bek usta Xitoy hukumati.
So when I was there, that happened several times. Whenever foreign visitors come to visit our homeland, and Chinese government will open the mosques and say that and all of us like acting like we are playing a drama, acting like we are on the stage. And Chinese, normally the mosques are closed, but Chinese government try to show that we giving people freedom to practice religion, and people living very well.
Shuningga deydiganim ümidim shuki, endi haqiqiy bir o'mak bo'lsa, ashna ishkichilik mohiyatini oshkorlay oladigan, ashlarni quypaga o'yinni ko'ribla, "Ma bu amaliyotda mundaq deb kelmasa, amaliyotda buning ichida nurg'un sirlar bor. Hatto insonlar bizdek fuqarolarni qanday chet ellikka kelib qolmaysan, hech qanday ishki jihatga ishlarni demaysan deb bizni debla qoldik bizningki. Men emas, men degan bo'lsam, mening urug' tuqqanlarimdan tortib, ota-onamdan, hattoki navragichilik, navr tuqqanlarimgachilik ashta opirib so'litadigan ishlar bor. Buningga bag'a o'makning nihoyat hushyorligi ortiq bu hushyorligini oshirgan holatda berib tekshirib kelishini umid qilaman.
And I hope whoever going to visit or investigate to the region, I hope people go to there and investigate thoroughly, and like Chinese government when we were, the Chinese government used to tell us that you have to say this or you cannot say this, and there are a lot of things hidden behind what people can see. So I hope people can investigate and investigate very carefully and thoroughly.
Yes. And on that note, asking Rushan, can you elaborate on what is needed from the international community to address these atrocities?
There are a lot that each of us can do, and what the international community can do. We can start with educating those around us, tell people about what's happening. It's so disturbing to see that much of the world continues to remain ignorant of these crimes against humanity. I was talking with someone, a journalist actually. I asked how many Americans that you guess know about what is happening in East Turkestan, and his response was about 90% of them still don't know what's happening. So that's United States, where we have the free information, where people can go on Google, Google Uyghurs, Google the name East Turkestan or Xinjiang, and read for what's happening. And we have like 2 witnesses, now it's 3, actually one more came, 3 former detainees living in United States. And also in US, we should push our legislators to continue to adopt legislation to hold Chinese regime accountable. There is a Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act that overwhelmingly passed in the House, but desperately need senators, that need the Senate to co-sponsor, and we are not getting the response from the senators. So please call your senators, ask them to co-sponsor the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, so the Uyghurs will be saved from being used as slaves. The Chinese government basically brought back slavery in the 21st century, in the 2020. So yeah, and also additionally, we should address our own complicity by holding companies accountable for supply chains in China. And they also protect academic liberty that is very threatened in the West right now. It's time to choose between the benefits of the freedom and the democracy and the complicity with this genocidal, murderous regime, and continue to do business as usual with China today is complicit with China's crimes against humanity. So those are the few things that we can do. And please, follow us on social media and share the information. Our website always have updated information, and you can also go to our website and sign up for our mailing list. So just educate yourself so you can educate the others. The Chinese government is not only blocking all the information due to information blockade. Not many people know about this. They're also spending millions of dollars to spread disinformation and the false narratives. So they are using the platform we have in this great country to spread the false narratives and the disinformation about their crimes against humanity. So we need to push back those. Thank you.
Yes. And if it's all right with you, we do have some questions from the audience, and I would like to get to some of them. We have one question about the international courts and how have the international courts or the United Nations responded to this?
Can I go ahead and answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the United Nations, excuse me, the United Nations has been crippled by China's manipulation. The Chinese Communist regime being the second largest donor in United Nations, manipulating everything there. So there's not much going on. Also, we were very pleased yesterday, there's 39 countries criticized Chinese government's human rights abuses against the Uyghur people and the Hong Kong, but still China is using the Belt and Road Initiative's power and the debt trap diplomacy and the trade threats and the manipulation in the international organizations. They are basically silencing the international communities. So it is important for us to push forward with, holding not only Chinese communist regime accountable, but entities like United Nations and like organizations like the International Olympic Committee to respect its principles and hold China accountable. It's very disappointing for us to see not only the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, which is the third world, for the countries, developing countries in Africa or other parts of the world, needing China's money and the thinking that they are getting benefits while China is basically colonizing those countries, but many other countries being silent. When we look at China is being invited to United Nations, being on the Human Rights Council panel. Imagine that, inviting the murderer to be judge his own trial, and this is happening in front of us, and nobody is doing anything. So yes, we really need to have United Nations and the other organizations also hold their own finding of why they are there, those organizations, and their principles, respect their principles. Thank you.
Yes. And how have governments of Muslim majority countries reacted to China's crackdown on Muslim minorities?
Unfortunately, the Chinese government, before they started this genocide against the Uyghurs, they started to brainwashing and the influencing and the buying out, the silence of the Muslim majority countries. And that those countries don't have a free media that we have. Most of those countries, media is controlled by the government. So they are basically repeating China's narratives of those vocational training centers are just basically educating Uyghur people, teaching them Han Chinese, and giving them jobs by training them vocationally, giving them technical skills. Those are all lies. So the Muslim majority countries basically not only not saying anything, but most of those countries are taking China's side. That's very disappointing for us. But then again, I want to use this opportunity to speak some of our platforms here, like Disney and the NBA. The Chinese government is using its influences with current movie Mulan, asking Disney to thanking the police, like a security bureau, who is not only, being one of the organs that's being, like holding, arresting the Uyghurs and the police state, but also running those concentration camps and running the false narratives. Netflix currently actually made a deal with this Chinese author with more than $200 million actually, giving him platform to produce his work on the Netflix, while this person clearly being a genocide apologist, repeating China's narratives here in United States. And also CNN and the other media is giving a platform for people like Jeffrey Sachs, who is mainly, his research is being funded by the Chinese regime. He is using CNN to repeat and defend China's crimes against humanity, basically. And those are the kind of things really disappoints me. The Muslim majority countries and the other African countries, Central Asian countries, I understand. But here in America, people are still being complicit with genocide.
I think the audience really wants to learn more about the Uyghur culture, traditions, what sparked this. If you could give us some, a little bit of resources where we can find more information. And I know you have the campaign for Uyghurs and can learn more, but yeah, can you speak to that a little bit?
The Uyghur people are, if you have read in the history, like the old Silk Road where Marco Polo went in Kashgar, that's where we are. Basically, it's a part of Central Asia. That's why we call it East Turkestan, because the West Turkestan is like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and then we are on the east side. So it's a geographical name, actually, East Turkestan. So our culture is very much same, the culture and the language both actually very much similar to Uzbeks or Kazakhs or Kyrgyz or people in the former Soviet republics, all this stands in Central Asia. And we believe in Islam, and the people are very moderate, actually. And it's unlike other parts, like unlike the Chinese government is perpetrating, they're saying that the Uyghurs are radicalized and that they are extremists, this and that. But whatever they are saying is complete lie. They are demonizing our ethnicity and stigmatizing the religion to achieve their goal. Because, as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative, which he calls New Silk Road, that puts our homeland in epicenter of basically, his Marshall Plan for the world domination. All three arms of the Belt and Road Initiative going through Central Asia, going through Europe and North Africa, and plus the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which starts from Kashgar. They're all four strategic legs of his important imperialistic Marshall Plan is basically starts from our homeland, as our homeland is a gateway to Central Asia, to Europe and Africa and the Middle East. That's why China is doing what they are doing to us right now, basically eradicating the Uyghurs. The option given for Uyghur people with our beautiful culture and the language you just heard Zumret Dawut speaking, it's, we have our own culture, history, and our language. But Chinese ambassador to United States, Ambassador Cui Tiankai, he shamelessly told CNN early 2019 in one of the report, one of the interview, he said when he was asked by a reporter why those re-education camps and this and that, he said, with those re-education centers, we are trying to make Uyghur people normal people. Imagine that. Basically, in his own words, he looks at us because of our race, our religion, our language, our history, our culture. The Chinese communist regime looks at us as the abnormal commodity. They don't treat us as normal people. So he said, with those re-education camps, we are making Uyghurs as normal people.
Yes. Well, I think we only have 1 minute left. Zumret, did you want to respond to that at all?
Yes.
Did she? Oh, I was just asking. No. Well, I wish we had more time. We do, I wish we had more questions. I have in the chat, Zumret, you are so brave. Thank you for telling your story. And Rushan, thank you for all that you do and your activism on the ground. I just, you know, it was a very timely program, and I'm really glad that you were able to be here with us today. So thank you so much. And for us, a few announcements before we end. Please take a moment to fill out that survey for today's program. It's in the chat. The survey will help us know how we are doing, gives us important information. The museum is also open Wednesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. through 5 p.m. with the last entry at 4 p.m. Wednesdays are now free through the end of the year, so please come. And again, the museum is offering fabulous programs, events just like these, so you can read about and register. They put the link in the chat as well. So just check out what we have coming up. So thank you so much again for attending and being here with us today. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.